Hi, boys and girls, and welcome back to Mr. Grable in our Grade 3 ELA class where we read from collections Carving New Frontiers. Our story today is called Marisol and the Yellow Messenger by Amelia Smith Alea, illustrated by Sami Sumalainen. Here we go. This is the story of a girl called Marisol. In Spanish, Marisol means ocean and sun. Her parents gave her this name because when she was born, she was happy and warm like the morning sun, and her eyes and hair were black like the deep ocean on a moonless night. But a day came when her eyes changed and told their own sad story. When Marisol was only 8 years old, her father was killed, and she, her mother, and her little brothers had to run away to Canada. Every single day and every night, the only thing she thought about was her beautiful country and all the things her father had taught her before he died. Now they were in a strange country where people spoke a different language. They lived on the first floor of a 2-story house on a busy street with a laundromat on one side of them and a grocery store on the other. Marisol didn't go out much. She played with her brothers, but they were small. Sometimes she tried to help her mother. One day, Marisol was coming home from school. It was getting dark, even though it was only afternoon, and her breath made thin clouds in front of her face. She shivered as the icy snow drifted down, and she shuffled her cold feet. The snow was dirty from the cars and trucks that rumbled past. She sighed and imagined herself back in her grandparents' house. She was rocking with her grandpa in the hammock after school, listening to the rhythm of the slap, slap of her grandmother making tortillas. She shook off the daydream when she reached her house. The family ate supper and watched some TV, but after a while, tired of listening to English, they went to bed. That night there came a great storm. The wind moaned, and the snow blew around in big gusts and blinding circles. Marisol was listening to the whistling of the storm. She began to think of her grandfather and grandmother. Then she looked at the big picture of her father above her bed and cried for a while. Then she fell asleep. When the whole house and the street outside were still, Marisol began to dream. She saw 4 old women kneeling on the ground. They were weaving, pulling the weft thread through the warp, their brown hands working quietly, quickly. The women were dressed in brilliant reds, greens, pinks, blues, and yellows. They were women from her homeland, and the cloth they were weaving had every color of the world in it. Marisol was in the middle of their circle, and they spoke with her. "You know us, Marisol," they said. "We are your great-grandmother's mothers. We are in the stars, or the trees and the stars, the jaguars and the corn. We see everything and are touched by everything. Now look inside. Your tears are ours, because your father was our son. And when he died, our voices sobbed along with yours. We come to bring you peace. See how your father is with us now, and with you always. His breath is the wind that lifts your hair. His eyes are the stars that are watching you. So look for him everywhere, and don't be afraid, Pequina. I'm guessing Pequina is a nice name or little girl, something like that. As she lay in their circle, Marisol felt safe and protected, and for the first time a deep pain in her body began to flow out. She looked from one face to another, and the cloth that the women were weaving grew wide. It grew bigger than themselves, and Marisol was surrounded by a giant, multicolored circle. Then she woke up. It was dark outside. The storm had calmed. She had listened to the breathing of one brother, then the other, then to the gentle sighs of their mother in a small room they all shared. She couldn't quite remember the dream, but she felt warm in her bed. Soon she fell asleep again. The next day, the whole big city was covered in snow. So much snow that cars stopped moving and school was canceled. People got busy digging, and happy children bundled up and went climbing in the mountains of snow. Marisol and her brothers went out. They played in the snow as though they had lived in the north all their lives. They made snowballs and went sledding with the other children. Finally, as the sun was going down, they ran home tired, cold, and laughing. On the way down the street, Marisol remembered the dream. She remembered the words of the old women. So look for him everywhere. She looked around at the stillness of the snow. She did not see her father's face anywhere in the frozen white. The children arrived breathless at the front stairs. The little boys went in, pulling off their boots and talking both at once to their mother. But Marisol didn't go straight in. She stood at the door, waiting. At that moment, she saw something coming that made her eyes open wide and her hair tingle. Out of the white came a little yellow bird. It came straight towards her, and when she opened the door wide, it flew in. There was a great uproar in the tiny apartment as the bird fluttered around, stopping here and there, looking at the people with its little tilted head. Sorry, that's little head tilted. Slightly different. They put out some water in a teacup without a handle, and some sesame seeds in the lid of a sour cream container. The bird landed to take little sips and pecks. As darkness filled the streets outside, the little visitor calmed down. We must let it go again, said Marisol's mother. It's not fair to hold it prisoner. But Marisol and her brothers pleaded with her to let the creature stay. It would die for sure out on a night like this, they said. So the little yellow bird with the cheery black eyes stayed. It spent the night in the warm bathroom on a perch made out of a wooden spoon. Before Marisol went to sleep, she checked up on the bird one last time. It had begun to trill. It felt so at home in the warm apartment. As she lay down, she listened, and it seemed to her as though the bird was singing, in a voice she had heard so many times before. "Don't be afraid, my little one. Don't be afraid, my little one." Marisol pulled her covers tightly around her. She smiled softly in recognition, and she felt a love for her mother and her little brothers that was stronger than ever before. She knew why the yellow bird had come. Have a great day. Bye-bye.